I don't know why this hasn't turned on yet.
Oh, I'll stand over here.
How do we?
Well, Sophie's coming back in like
3 more.
oh,
3 more boxes.
Cool. You're all so fancy. Do you want to do an introduction or you
Yeah.
want to?
All right.
Hi everyone, we're gonna get started. If you didn't get any pizza, there's a couple more coming, and so you can just feel free to grab it anytime during the presentation. So I'm actually one of the PhD event planners. First, we have risk management speaking, and they're gonna give a presentation. Then the Peeps will speak. We have the ASUO controllers that are going to speak, and then we also have PFC speaking as well. So if you have any questions about the presentation, feel free to just raise your hand. And thank you.
Well, hello everybody. For those of you that weren't here before, again, my name is Julie Scroggins. My official job title, bear with me, Assistant Director of Experiential Learning for Student Government Engagement and Success. What that really means is I work with all of Lido. So you probably see a million emails from me. This is my colleague across campus from Risk Management, Lisa Taylor. Welcome, Lisa. So we're going to do a presentation about risk management today and how to mitigate risk for your events. How many people actually think about risk when you're doing your event planning? Hey, good, wonderful. So we're going to talk about some things that impact you. Feel free to ask us questions at any point in time during this presentation if you have questions. And take it away, Lisa.
All right. Let me see. I might not know how to actually do the slide thing, so I will switch spots with you.
Yeah, you do the slides. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm not super good with the microphone.
So as Julie mentioned, I come from the risk management office, and so some things I want to talk to you about today are first, before we dive in, is liability and risk. So what does it mean to be liable? You can pretty much water that down to legally responsible for. And then another question is, what is risk? So risk is an exposure to danger or uncertainty. And risk can be either accepted, they could be avoided, you can mitigate those risks, you can transfer those risks, or you could defer those risks. And so how many of you have a driver's license? Okay, I'm assuming you have insurance for your car, or you're under your insurance with your parents. So if you are in an auto accident, you, hopefully with your insurance, and hopefully this doesn't happen to you, if you are in an accident, your insurance would cover a major portion of that claim. You might have a deductible where you have to pay out of pocket some of the money for that, but ultimately it's being transferred through your insurance. Now, it's probably been a while since you've done this, but how many of you have taken driver training? I'm assuming before you got your driver's license, your parents or someone took you out and taught you how to actually use a vehicle. So that type of education and hands-on activity actually prepared you to help prevent getting in an accident. And so today we're going to talk about tools for transferring risk planning, contracts, waivers of liability, and insurance. And again, there's going to be some repetition in my presentation. So we're going to cover contracts, insurance, waivers of liability, safety and security, communication, risk planning, and campus partners you should know. And I'm going to turn over the next couple slides to Julie.
So some of you may wonder how your events are covered for risk management and the university's insurance. So one of the best ways to determine whether or not your event would be covered by the university's liability insurance would be how your event is being funded. So if you are using your IFE budget for an event, then it will most of the time fall under the University of Oregon's insurance. If you are not using your ASUO funds to do your event, then it would not fall under the U of O insurance policy. So an example of that would be you and 5 members of your student organization decide that you want to go up snow skiing for the fun of it. And you're driving your own vehicles on your own time, and you are using your own funds to pay for that. Even though everybody that's going skiing is part of your student organization, it would not be considered a U of O sanctioned event. Make sense? Yes, wonderful. That covers that. Oh, I guess that doesn't. One of the important key aspects of that is if it is not a U of O sanctioned event, meaning using your IFE funds to cover the event, you cannot use University of Oregon or ASUO in the title of it. So it's just a bunch of friends getting together, going on a trip. It's not the butterfly watching club from the ASUO going on a trip. Make sense? Okay. How many people here also belong to a University of Oregon department along with the ASUO? A couple of folks. So if you are a ASUO organization and you are also sometimes funded by a University of Oregon department, same rules apply. If it's a department funded event and they are giving you funds for it, you would fall under the University of Oregon insurance. If you're, again, a group of 5 people going out snow skiing for the fun of it, you're not using any university funds to cover it, then the insurance would not cover you. Make sense? This is your meeting.
You can handle this.
Sure. Okay. Contracts. Y'all should probably know by now the rules and our requirements and timeline for contracts. So we require contracts to be submitted 4 weeks for your event, for a normal event. And if you're having a custom contract, they need to be submitted 6 weeks before your event. You cannot legally sign a contract on behalf of the University of Oregon. Only the University of Oregon may bind themselves contractually to things. This is important because if you sign a contract on behalf of the University of Oregon, that means that the University of Oregon is no longer liable for the insurance coverage for that. So very bad.
So I can share a quick story about this. We actually, about a couple years ago, we had a student call into my office, and it's usually a Friday afternoon call. I'm throwing a block party. Is there anything I need to consider with the risk management department? It's this weekend. Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider with that. And as it turned out, the student had signed city permits. They had signed contracts with the vendors. They took on the entire liability for a block party. I'm pretty sure nobody here wants to have that happen to them. So that's why we really bring this up, is because you never want to take on that legal liability yourself, because, well, unless you're a millionaire. I mean, I guess if you have it in your pocket to self-insure, sure. But, okay, next slide. So this question also comes up in my office a lot. Our group is using a facility off campus and it's free. Do we need a contract? The answer is yes. And the reason for that is 2 reasons, actually. As Julie mentioned, the U of O's insurance to apply to your event, U of O needs to be a part of that contract. So they need to be a party to that use agreement. And then the other piece is the vendor is likely going to want to see that we have insurance, that we sanction this event. So in order to get that, you would need a certificate of insurance. And all a certificate of insurance is a piece of paper like what you would have in your pocket for your auto insurance. It just shows that, yes, I am insured. And so that vendor is going to want to see that. And then, so let's kind of talk about insurance.
Let me go back to this one real quick.
Yeah.
If you are unsure and you know you're going to rent a space off campus, like the big indicator is, and they're giving it to you for free. So there's a couple of locations around here that will often donate space to students. And if they ask for a certificate of liability from the university, then you know that you need to have a contract. See the controllers, and we can do a, what is it called? No money contract. They're really super easy to do, obviously, because there's no money being gone back and forth. But we actually need to have that done before risk management will give you a certificate of insurance liability.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so all events on campus must have insurance. And so I guess we've kind of talked about a little bit about some terminology, and I want to make sure you guys understand what insurance is. It's a financial product that's there to protect you, your property against the loss. So in this case, U of O has insurance, and we're self-insured up to $250,000. And what that means is if there is a loss, that comes out of the general fund. So that's why we find it's really important to mitigate risks for events that we hold on campus. And I think Julie can speak to how you guys handle your department deductibles if there is an incident.
So at this time, if something happens, and most of the time when we see insurance claims come through, they involve something to do with the vehicle. So someone crashed a motor pool vehicle into a pole. We see this at least once a year. So that motor pool vehicle is covered by the University of Oregon's liability insurance. You're not responsible for that. However, the money that covers the insurance deductible, which is $5,000, which is pretty high. So even a little fender bender that was only $1,000, or has to be pretty big to hit $5,000. We have to pull the money out of a prudent reserve account. And that really impacts all student organizations. If perchance everybody rented a motor pool vehicle and everybody got in an accident, that would take a pretty big hit on our prudent reserve account. And that impacts you as student organizations. That means your budgets for future years could be significantly smaller. Now, knock on wood, we haven't had that issue, but it's really important that you're aware that that deductible, we have insurance, but that insurance also impacts all the student organizations. Yes?
So if I host an event at the Fort Alumni Center, do they automatically send me insurance, or I can then go use it?
So what we're talking about really are larger events where you're going to be not necessarily like a meeting where you're just holding it in a space. So
yeah,
you
I mean, like 300 people, like speakers.
Right, yeah. So it's still under through UO's self-insurance. UO's insurance would apply. You're an ASUO recognized group, or if you are holding a department-sponsored event, then insurance would apply. There are situations where we might say, you know, the risk is too high. We don't want to cover this. And some examples of that are like rafting, sailing, high-intensity sports, things like that. Hopefully you're not rafting on campus. I don't know how you would do that, but
an example of the time that we didn't cover an event the student organization wanted to put on was we had briefly a motorcycle club, and they wanted to have in some motocross. They wanted to close down like part of the street, do this huge motocross event. And we're like, no, our insurance won't cover that. That's a high risk event. And then they went out and had to purchase separately their own insurance policy. And then we actually ended up saying, no, you can't actually have this event because the insurance policy that you tried to purchase actually strictly prohibits motocross also. So big stuff like that, we don't get that very often, but occasionally some people have really great ideas about when to do stuff like that, and there's may or may not be covered by insurance.
Yep.
So administratively, do we have to go through you, or would the event center know to send me
it's automatically there for you.
Internally,
So,
it's already, we're all under the same umbrella, essentially.
Right.
Yes.
Are the materials from this meeting going to be posted or synced or anything?
No, please don't take notes. We will post this later. Thank you for asking. Sorry, we're halfway through and I just now told you.
So if you find yourself in a situation where you're wanting to hold an event and it's not really a UO sponsored event, you might want to, you're going to have to probably purchase insurance, and it's going to be through maybe one of these companies. This is just a selection of websites you can go to get a free quote. Oftentimes we recommend Tulip. It's actually available on our website, safety.uoregon.edu, and you can get a quote to find out, if your event would be covered.
The other time we see this is we also require, if you're contracting with someone and they're coming here, so a performer or something, they're also required to have their own insurance policy to cover themselves. And we won't actually allow them to do their performance unless they have it. And some folks, obviously, maybe it's not the thing that they do all the time, so they're not going to have an insurance policy because maybe they're not like a business. Maybe they do just think. An example I can think of was we had a student organization that hired performers that were doing sword fighting. So, and it wasn't like they were a sword fighting business. They were just people that did this on the side occasionally. So we actually required them to purchase insurance. So they were able to go on here and also purchase insurance.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked a little bit about insurance. Now let's talk about liability and waivers of liability. So a waiver of liability informs prospective participants of potential risks involved with that activity. It also allows that individual to voluntarily accept those risks, and it secures an agreement from the individual to hold the university harmless. And we actually have the waivers available online, and some examples of when you want to use a waiver: events involving physical activity or contact, pillow fights, foam sword play, fitness challenges, maybe if you're doing potlucks, foodborne illnesses would need to be considered, overnight stays, travel out of town, carpooling, motor pool usage. These waivers should only be used if it's an actual UO event. So we kind of talked about like a club, maybe a group of collection of folks just deciding, hey, we want to just go hang out for the weekend over at the beach. And it's not really being funded and it's not really driven by your department or by your leadership. That's not really a UO event. So you don't need to fill out a waiver for that. I just want to make that clear. That question does come up.
So I think there's some slides that address this. We actually have a copy. Well, we have a link to the actual waiver in a PDF form. It should be on all of your OrgSync pages under files. And then also there should be an actual form available that you can fill out online. Online forms are great if it's a small group of people. So you're taking a trip to the coast for a retreat and you're staying overnight. We all know you need a waiver for that now. And there's maybe 10 people going. So use the online form for that and submit it. If you are having a, let's say, campus run for charity or something, and you're having hundreds of participants that are students, then I would suggest you make and print off copies of the PDF and have people actually fill those out. All copies of physical waivers have to come to me, and I have to keep them for some ridiculous amount of time.
6 years.
6 years. I have to keep those for 6 years.
And we can show you what that waiver looks like.
Which is why I like the online form, because then I don't have to keep them anywhere physically. So.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so some key pieces to know when you're filling this out is activity description. So if you were going to go to the beach for a retreat, you'd want to put down the dates, the times, the mode of transportation, and maybe some of those potential risks. Like we're going to go look at tide pools on the beach. I would put that down because that's an activity that someone could fall and hurt themselves during. It's important that you provide the participants with as much information ahead of time of what type of risks they could encounter for your event, so that they're very aware that, yes, when I sign this, I am agreeing to waive certain things that are listed in this document. So once you've determined a waiver is needed, anyone that participates must sign it. You can't edit it. No addendums, no redlining and initialing. Believe it or not, we get a lot of parents that want to do this for their students, which is kind of interesting to me. went to school, and my mom never did that, so I'm glad for that. But basically, if they want to participate, they need to sign it in its entirety. And as she mentioned, there is an electronic waiver that you can use, but otherwise they need to be physically signed, and retention is 6 years.
If at all possible, use the OrgSync form.
So let's talk about event planning phase. So you should be working with a UO employee within a department if you are a sponsored UO org through a department. And if you are an ASUO group, we recommend that you work with the PEEPs. And communication should be at the forefront of your planning piece. You should really have a point of contact, someone that is leading the group and making it cohesive. And so a couple tools that will help you with this are the risk management event checklist, or you can even use your own checklist, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But first I'm going to talk about some things you need to consider when planning an event. So accessibility, where you're having your event. Are emergency personnel going to be able to reach people if something does go wrong? Have you created maps of the area? Are there other events occurring on campus that would impede access? So campus does get very busy, so you do want to kind of plan ahead, maybe look at the campus calendar to figure out what's already happening on campus. And then safety and security, physical activities, you're going to want to first aid station, large events, security personnel, cleanup, appropriate waste disposal, potential hazardous waste. Now, I did put that on there, even though it's unlikely you're going to be dealing with hazardous waste. We did have a student group want to use some sort of chemical to freeze some ice cream and do some sort of fundraiser. And so they had to actually reach out to our environmental health and safety group to get approval to go forward with their plan, because we wanted to make sure they were using that chemical appropriately. And then that brings me to another group you should be in contact with, which is the fire marshal's office. You guys might be familiar with them if you stay in the dorms. I'm sure everybody's at least had one fire drill happen to them. And although they may be yelling at you when they're getting you out of the dorms, they actually really care. They want you to be safe. And so they provided me with a list of things for me to give to you to think about when you're planning your event. Does your event have any tents, bounce houses, anything that could be turned into a sail and fly? Fire, like performance arts. Potential occupancy issues, fencing, blocking, or exit of pathways. And actually, some of the things on this list may require a city permit. So you want to do your research when you're making your plans. They've asked that student org groups have a ASUO designee on site for the entire duration of an event. This person should be a person that's a point of contact, someone that can make corrective action. So if they notice something that needs to be fixed, they have the person they can talk to and they fix it. I mean, I just think that's pretty straightforward. It's helpful. They've had situations where they've told a student, hey, you need to fix this right away. They say, sure, no problem. They come back around to see if it's been rectified, and it's not 30 minutes later or an hour later because the student never told the leadership that was actually running the event. So that's a pretty key one. And then so more about resources and tools. So before you even get to reserving a room, we really want folks to think about looking at that event checklist, reading the UO policy library to see if your event might have some rules around that. And then of course, if you're an ASUO group, reaching out to the PEEPs they can definitely help you with planning your event.
So one of the things that we're going to be implementing this year, and we're going to soft launch it throughout the year and make it a hard, fast rule by spring term, is based on the type of event you're doing, you'll actually be required to fill out the event checklist first, and it's going to be an online OrgSync form. And it kind of walks you through some of these questions, and it just helps us because certain events that may be considered risky, we actually want to be having conversations with risk management weeks in advance. So you don't run the risk of having to have your event canceled or rescheduled because all of a sudden we need to have city permits and the fire marshal has to sign off on it and your event's tomorrow. So that's going to be something that's coming. It is only going to apply to events that would be considered high-risk events. So these things include anything with a bounce house or anything that inflates, pretty much anything you get from destination events. Rafting trips, any event that has physical activity. So we've been seeing an increase in the last few years from folks wanting to do like fun runs around campus for event charities. Those types of things will have to have, you fill out their risk event checklist so that we can have some conversations about that event before it takes place. What else can you think of?
So let's go ahead and show them what the checklist kind of looks like. So it's pretty straightforward. It's got a lot of great questions on there. It's definitely not all inclusive, but some key things on there, like it'll talk about fire. Are you wanting to have any animals at your event or food? And it'll also talk about maybe where you could go to find that information if there's a UO policy that applies to it. So let's look at the policy library. So this is a really great tool. We used to not have the ability to search through UO policies the way we do now. And you can go to policies.uoregon.edu and just type in a simple term. It's a little tricky. I was looking up animals and it didn't populate animal control policy. You have to type in animal. But it's really helpful if you have a head start on your event. If you know you're going to have an animal at your event, you can plan ahead for things. So I got a call into my office. We want to hold an event with a tiny horse. That's what the subject line in my email said to me. I was like, okay, great. Have you got a contract with the people bringing this tiny horse to campus? No, we didn't know we needed one. Why would we? They're bringing it for free. And I'm like, well, it's great that they're bringing you a free horse, but there's a lot of risks involved. The vendor needs to have insurance. We want to make sure that they're following UO's policy for when an animal comes to campus. There are rules around that and exceptions to those rules, which is what they were seeking from us. Could we bring this animal to campus? And unfortunately, because they didn't plan ahead, their event was in like 2 or 3 days. And I don't believe they got the contract pushed through PCS, which is purchasing and contracting. And so they didn't get to bring their tiny horse, which is, yeah. Some more resources are also on our website at safety.uoregon.edu, event planning. My understanding is eventually there is a goal, a lofty goal, that one day the U of O will have an event.uoregon page. But right now we don't have that. But we do have a lot of links to where you need to go to find resources on campus. And then, of course, there's the PEEPs. Here's their information. I just thought it'd be helpful if you guys had this in the presentation. And then a basic timeline that I had a student worker in our office kind of put together that plans events. Starting even before that 6 weeks out, though, you want to be using this checklist so that you're prepared to face all of these different things as the timeline progresses. So when you're planning a large event or an event that might be, you know, more unusual because you need to have a tiny horse at it and maybe a carnival or a clown, I don't know, maybe 1 to 2 months planning. So. And then a list of campus partners. I know she said it's available online, but if you want to, I would say this is one of the most important slides on here, who to contact. You could take a picture with your phone of it for the links. So if you're going back to your groups and meeting.
Oh, there's 2 pages.
There's 2 pages, yes. There's a lot of people to talk to when you're running an event. And event planning can be fun. And we're definitely not here to say, no, you can't do this. We want you to have fun and educational fun, but limit that fun.
We like tiny horses
yeah.
and we like cheetahs. We just
do.
need to know about them a couple of months before your event happens.
Yes, thank you. And then, so 3 key takeaways. Oh, yeah.
For recurring events that happen in the same place each time, do you have to go through this process for every individual event, or is there like a general?
No, I would say the vast majority of the events that you do on this campus, none of this is going to apply to you. So general meetings, movie nights, very low. Those things are all, most of the stuff you all do is very low risk. Occasionally, somebody has a harebrained idea to have a motocross. So those are the types of things that we're looking at. Anything that's like a physical activity,
That want to bring a carnival to campus.
a carnival with, you know,
with
rides, that kind of stuff. Bounce houses. Bounce houses, I don't know if you know this, are a really bad idea.
Maybe look it up on YouTube. They're scary.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever get in one.
So that kind of thing we want to be knowing about well in advance. So if you have some notion that you want to have a, I don't know, a bull riding thing, I don't know, something that could be dangerous, let us know. We're not going to tell you no, but we're going to have to work through some stuff first.
Yep. And so the 3 key takeaways is communication. We want it to funnel through a single point person for an event. Hopefully that's professional staff that's talking with the fire marshal's office or with the risk management office at that point. Again, don't sign a contract. Just don't. That's not something you want to do. And use the tools and resources available to you. Reach out to Julie's group if you have questions.
Okay, any questions? Well, throw me some weird ones. Come on. Okay. Yes.
So would it be insured if it came through ASUO surplus?
Yes. Good question. Yes.
What if your student organization doesn't have a staff?
Well, unfortunately, that's me. So I am your link to risk management. So when we make that worksing form live, we're working on a process with controllers, so you'll be kind of notified in advance that you have to fill that form out, and then the person that will be approving that and working with you will be me. Yes.
If we have speakers from one campus, for special conference.
Yes. There is.
Did you guys hear her question about, I could barely hear you, sorry. She was asking if you needed a contract, if you have a speaker coming to campus, and the answer is yes.
Our club is an ASUO recognized, is realistic to consider like taking a group off. It's not far away, but just are using this volunteer.
Yes. What do we do about volunteer stuff? Do they need to fill out a waiver?
They would need to fill out, well, is your group is not ASUO
It is,
recognized?
yes.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. She says it's not. But
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, like established club, but we're not just not recognized.
Okay. If we kind of base whether or not you need a waiver on how it's being funded. So volunteers are a little bit tricky because you're obviously not paying anyone or doing anything. I would say if you're traveling, even if it's not very far off campus, I would err on the side of having people fill out a waiver, an activity waiver.
And if you are volunteering with another group, like you're doing a community service outreach with the U.S. Forestry or something like that, they might have a form that you need to sign while you're volunteering with them. So that would be appropriate.
Yes.
So going off that invite speaker thing, so if we invite a speaker from different states, so we have to fly them in and say like, you know, with flights and stuff, like do you want us to require that they purchase like a travel insurance thing?
No, and not to be mean, but we don't really care about them.
Yeah.
We only care about you all.
Yeah.
Everybody in this room.
And the U of O does actually have a requirement for vendors to have insurance of 1 million, 2 million, but
Yeah.
for small things like speaker events and it's limited contact, limited time on campus, they're not really needing insurance, it gets waived. So
Yeah.
that goes through a contracting process, and then ultimately it's okay to waive that insurance requirement.
Other question? This is like a complex kind of, I know, interesting, well, kind of boring topic, but, and I know you all don't think about it much, but it actually impacts you more than you think. So we want you to actually start kind of thinking about these things when you're doing your event planning. Yeah.
If an event is solely funded by like fundraising, is that not insured?
Where is the event taking place?
On or off? Both.
On campus? Yes. Off campus? No. Yeah. Okay.
These are all great questions.
Yeah, great question. It's not one of those black and white issues, so often we have to have conversations and ask follow-up questions to figure out the nuances. And often it comes down to, is the event being funded somehow by the university? And if the answer is no, then often this doesn't apply.
Right.
Cool. Okay. If we have no more questions, we're going to turn it over to the rest of the peeps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, we're just gonna introduce ourselves real quick and we'll get our presentation going. I know it's going long, so we'll make ours quick, and then the controllers are gonna talk, and they have a lot of information about like funding, contracts, budgets, everything like that. So give me 1 second. Wait, let's just like introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophie. I'm a junior at U of O, and this is my second year of the PEEPS program.
Hi guys, my name is Erica, and I'm a new PEEP. I'm a junior as well.
And I'm Blake. This is my third year as a PEEP, and I'm a junior.
Oh.
I think you already.
All right, so we're gonna start once this turns on. Who's first?
So just a little bit about who we are as the peer education and event planners. We basically help you all find the resources and things that you need for planning events. So we can direct you to whichever office you might need to go to, whether it's the controllers or scheduling or event services. We can kind of guide you in that. Also, we do peer-to-peer education. So we hold the workshops and we actually plan this training. We have several other trainings that we'll talk about, but yeah, we definitely want to support you in that and help you get more educated. We also do evaluation and reflections on your events. So if you guys are wanting us to come to your events, we have the ability to come kind of observe and then give you feedback after that. So this is our social media. We really encourage you guys to follow it in case there's trainings coming up, just so you know what's going on. Most all of it is ASUO Peeps, and then our email is asuopeep@uoregon.edu.
Here's the CSI office, and we are located on the left corner. You can see on the first picture. And there's like a study space, and it's not as large, but there's like a supply nest and like a craft center where you can get resources from. And on the bottom corner right there, you can rent a locker for your organization. And yeah.
It's mine too. Yep.
And to rent out supplies from the supply nest, you have to go to the CSI Resource Center and have a list of all the resources, and it has like pictures as well. And yeah, the list is called the inventory list, and you fill out a checkout form, and it's really simple.
So ID scanners is what the PEEPs have in their office. So they're really useful for student clubs and organizations to use for meetings and events. Anywhere that you want to know who's coming to your event, if they're your members. It's great for community service events, so if you're having volunteers come and through membership do decorations and you want to know who showed up, you can just scan their ID, the barcode, and it'll automatically track into the ID scanner. And you're able to upload that onto your OrgSync page, input that information on your portal so you can know who's coming to your event and who has regular attendance. And it's at the Keeps desk. You can go onto OrgSync, onto our portal at the ASCO Peer Education Event Planners. We have a form, an ID scanner checkout form. You fill it out whenever you want the ID scanner and you're planning to return it. And then you come into our office and you sit like right, Eric showed you a picture of it, you sit right at the desk. Just ask us for the ID scanner, they'll check out the form, have a signature, and bring it back whenever you're done with it. Yeah. And then CSI open houses, we already had one, but you're more than welcome. We might have in the spring and definitely again in this next year fall term. It's a great time to come in and check out what the supply nesting classroom offer. They're usually during a wide span of hours, so you can come in between classes and check it out. There's always food. We're there to answer any questions. It's a great time to network with other organizations that you might not have heard of before. And then Keeps open house. We actually just had our open house, but we're planning another one in the fall term next year. We had tabling for our organization and lots of clubs and org showed up. And then also we're having another one, it's January 16th, and actually the EMU is hosting that, and the welcome team is also going to be a part of that one. It's going to be really big, really huge, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. January 16th. It's a great time to come and check out not only clubs and organizations, but also planning on having a lot of departmental organizations there and other cool activities. So using OrgSync, hopefully y'all are familiar with OrgSync. Your club is on OrgSync, using it actively, but we really recommend it's the best place for your organization to be. All students at U of O are able to go onto OrgSync and check out your organization. They're able to join that way, see when your events and club meetings are. So it's like the most convenient way for you to get new members and keep updated. This is what our homepage looks like on OrgSync. So if you were to go and check out an ID scanner form, this is where you would go to find that form. And you have your current positions, if you have leadership, president, vice president, treasurer, it's been listed up there. It's great to have a profile there for your club mission, people to know what you're about, if they're interested in joining. And then you can also easily access your feed, which will have your events, and people, events, and files as well. Any questions on OrgSync or how to use OrgSync?
Okay, so as a new leader of your program or your organization, it's really important that you guys know your full roles and what you should be contributing to your organization. And also with that, knowing the roles within your club so you know that everyone's participating in the way they're supposed to. So we're going to stop there. Making sure that you update your club info on either OrgSync like we talked about or your social media pages is really important, just for new members and also current members, so they know meeting and location times, and just making sure like if new members or students are interested in joining your club, then they have the appropriate information to be able to contact those people that are needed. And then lastly, updating your bylaws when necessary. So bylaws are kind of the standards and outlines of your club, and it's important to do that just so they're not outdated, because you see that happen sometimes.
So the importance of documenting. This is one of the key factors of OrgSync and something that clubs don't take into account very often. Documenting for OrgSync, it will always store all your organization's information. And if perchance the OrgSync changes over to a new system, all of that information will be like automatically updated to the new place. And if you have it on the Word doc or a Google Calendar, it's not guaranteed that because it's not your OrgSync. So we recommend doing that and making sure you're uploading documents, files, any of the responsibilities, updating presidency or chapter positions, all that kind of stuff.
So dealing with elections, basically how we think about elections, we usually plan them around winter term. Usually is when we encourage people to have elections, just so the transitioning process is way easier for the new leadership coming in. There's different ways of doing elections. You can go through interviewing processes, or you can either vote. There's kind of different ways, whatever you guys choose to do that. So into that, we really think it's important to transition your officers in the right way. So there's a couple things that we kind of go off of. The first one is retreat or transition workshops, which can be kind of long, and it's a really long commitment if it's a full day, and can be kind of stressful for the new person taking over. So we don't necessarily recommend that, but something we do recommend is shadowing or mentoring, which is what the peeps utilize, kind of going through different steps and making sure that the new person coming in is very clear on the information that they're supposed to be doing and they're supposed to be knowing. And then the last two is the learning context transition and independent study transition.
All right, so one important thing for all of your clubs, of course, you want people to attend your events and people to join your club. So advertising is really important. Make sure you have your event created on OrgSync. I know if you would like to get a purchase order or do anything with the controller's office, you need to have your event on OrgSync. If you're going to have food, you need to advertise that there's food at your event on OrgSync. There are a lot of different ways we recommend groups to communicate with each other. So of course, group meetings with Messenger. I'm sure some of your clubs utilize those, but OrgSync has a bunch of cool ways where you can message, email all of the members of your club or just the administrators or officers. You can also go on OrgSync, and through OrgSync you can send text messages. So like, reminder to come to our club meeting tonight. There's a bunch of cool ways to do that also. So here are a couple different places to advertise in the EMU. I'm sure you've seen the TVs in the EMU, and so you can actually reserve to get your advertisement placed on those TV screens. You just go to, there's a form, scheduling and event services. You go, like you're reserving a room in the EMU, and you just fill out the form and say in the form that you want a TV ad, and then they will contact you through your email, and then you can send them. They will give you the requirements for the dimensions and everything for your advertisement, and they will send information on how to do that, and then you can send them the TV ad, and you have to do that 2 weeks in advance. That's a really cool way to advertise because those TVs are running constantly. Printing flyers, posters. The Coffee Center is a great way to help with printing and cutting your flyers and posters. You can come to the CSI to make posters for your organization with the Craft Center. You can also print in there with your printing code. The ASUO office, you can advertise by the O desk, and in our office, the CSI office. Okay, so now the controllers are going to speak. Question. Yes. So it should be in your budget. If you have a printing code, it will be in your budget. We can look it up after and ask and see. Yes. We are going to have the controller set up, and they have a lot of information also. Yes, question. Will this presentation also be posted? Yes, we will post it on our website. Yeah. Okay. 1 second. How are you? Good. Okay. Oh yeah, here you go. I think it just shuts off, but it should be, yeah. I'll just make sure it shows up. Yeah, you just yeah.
Okay, hey everybody. My name's TJ. This is Winston. We're a few of the ASU financial controllers, and we're gonna help y'all with a lot of the processes on like how to spend your budgets and what you can do to make your events go smoothly.
So for all ASU recognized student groups, we have OrgSync. If you want to post your events about like advertisement, every student here who is registered in the UFO, they will have access to OrgSync. So that's a very good way to advertise for your events. And also for like forms, as you know, like the stipend forms and finance resources, guidebooks, they're all on OrgSync. And also the TEEPs and the student organization manual, they'll also be on OrgSync as well. And the ASU financial controllers, our office is by the old desk, and we're always there to help. And also professional staff and the ASU office, they're there for like, for example, if you want to make a P-card appointment for like credit card for purchasing stuff, and they're also there to help in general.
So the student organization manual, it's got a lot of stuff about like spending rules and resources that you can use. There's a lot of spending rules, and we're going to go over a lot of them today, but if you need to know where it is, it's going to be here. You just go OrgSync, you search up ASU student organizations, and then under files, it'll have like student resources, and it'll be like right in there. And then the funds, Winston will start off with that.
So there are a couple of different funds. As you know, incidental fee. So every single student here, when you pay the tuition, there is like a $200 or something, $300 fee. That's incidental fee, and that goes to ASU to fund student groups on campus. And G fund will be the general fund, which will be departments' donations if they want to donate. Oh,
yeah.
No, oh, yeah.
Go on. Yeah.
So that's I, and G will be from department. So if they want to donate to your G fund, that could be also for general use, or it could be like for a specific event. And for E fund, that's money raised from events that was paid with the I fee money. And there's N fund, money raised at events when no I funds are used. So fundraising money that you raise on your own without using the school's money. And U funds on unrestricted. So donations that were donated to your groups that you can use it for events that is not restricted, and for D funds designated. So that means if a sponsor, a donor, or like a person that just wanted to donate to your group, they had a specific event that they want to donate to, they'll go into D fund. And the trust fund is not a university fund. It's one of the most flexible funds that you can use. So yeah.
And then also more about funds. So the I fund, which he was talking about earlier, is the student fee money. That actually doesn't get rolled over into the next year. So I fund is probably one of the bigger funds that groups get, and you definitely want to try your best to spend most of it, because if you don't spend at least a good amount of it, that will kind of like affect your budget process for next year. And it's just there for you to use, so might as well use it. Whereas all the other funds also roll over, like the G through T funds. So if they don't get spent at the end of the year, you can use them for next year's events. And then so how you would access these if you need to go through like your scheduling and all that would be through your index number. So the index number is going to be OS, and then 3 numbers that are specific to your organization, and then the letter of the fund. So if we go back here, if you need to access like your G fund, it would be like OS 123G would be an example. And then so the only people who are actually allowed to access this information is authorized signers. An authorized signer is anyone who is like a leader of the group. I assume all of y'all are leaders of your own groups. But how we would know that is if you go onto OrgSync, and in the positions little tab, you list all your current leaders. That's how we'll know if you're an authorized signer or not, and then you can access your funds and your index number. And then we'll get into some spending rules.
Oh, so at the controller's office, we do purchase order. It's like a promise that we'll pay the vendors, and you can also request a check. You can use it for hotel if you have like a facility rental too, and also a P card. P card is like a university credit card that you could purchase like from Amazon or like Vistaprint or like stuff
Any like
that,
online.
Yeah, online.
Yeah. Yep. As long as it's not illegal and dangerous. Okay, so with every purchase, there has to be a purpose. So we can't just let groups go out and just buy anything. It has to really kind of forward your group's like goals and missions, and also has to be in line with ASUO spending rules. So it says here, ASUO organization should further ASUO mission, which is to provide social, cultural, educational, and physical development of its members and the University of Oregon students.
So to do a purchase order, you will need a current officer or a authorized signers that's listed on OrgSync with their EOID card, and you can just come into our office and like, for example, if you're buying food, if you are wanting to use your iFund and eFund money, then it has to be posted like on OrgSync, advertised a week in advance.
7 days.
7 days in advance.
Everyone write that down, because I know a lot of people will not get that in. So please have your events posted on OrgSync 7 days in advance if you want money to buy food for your events. That's probably one of the most important things.
And also the catering, speaking of that, catering waiver for most of is 2 weeks in advance. And if it's UO catering, if you're going through UO catering, that's 1 week in advance. And so idea of what you're buying and which vendor for like Costco or different markets, different vendors in Eugene, or yeah. And if you're shopping on Amazon, like bring an estimate so we could write a PO.
Yeah. So this is this is the external purchase order form. There's also a short form for like internal and other uses. But yeah, so basically what it is, it has all your like information at the top, like where the money's coming out of, like what group, what fund it's coming out of, and then you need to write like what you're going to be getting down at the bottom. Typically, you'll be using these for all purchase orders, but there are specific ones that have their own purchase order. The biggest one is Campus Copy. Motorpool actually does not have in-hand forms anymore. The Motorpool forms are all online, and I think we go over that later too. But Motorpool requests are online now. They just started that this year. So if you need to rent cars for travel, you're going on retreat, or you're just going around Eugene, taking your members somewhere, it's going to be through an online form. And then OfficeMax and Daily Emerald also have their own purchase orders.
So the ASUO food rules. So this is actually only applies to I&E fund for the post on OrgSync. So if you want to purchase for food, if you want to use your G fund, your U fund, N fund, and if it's for that event D fund or trust fund, it doesn't have to be advertised on OrgSync. But for I&E, we do require that post. And so starting this year with I&E, we cannot buy raw food. For example, like a lot of groups had barbecue events last year, but unfortunately we cannot do it this year. And no alcohol, marijuana, no bottled water, since we consider that as natural resources, water. And yeah.
Oh, also for I&E, purchases for restaurants for off-campus. Basically, for I&E funds, you can't buy anything if it's not an on-campus event. So if you use your I&E fund money, the event has to be on campus. The only exceptions are if it's related to like a travel reimbursement. So if y'all went somewhere, spent your own money, and you want to get reimbursed, depending on the situation, we will reimburse you for it. Or if it's for a retreat or a conference, then you could do that off campus. Some additional rules, purchasing gifts for like events, raffling, all that type of stuff. The big rule is it has to be less than $25, and that's across all funds except for the trust fund. And it cannot go to your employees, can't go to contractors, and you can't buy gift cards. Also, if you spend over $10 on the gift and you raffle it off to students, you are going to have to get their names and 951 numbers, and that's going to have to be turned into us before we can send it up to accounting. So, never mind. The second part doesn't mean anything. Is there any questions so far? I guess we'll just take a sec. Yep.
What's the check for, and what would be the...
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes in certain situations, vendors will request a held check. Those are like very specific situations. And if the vendor does, we can request a held check, and then they'll send it down to our office, and then a member from your group will pick up the check and then deliver it to the vendor. Yeah.
And then how is the reimbursement for this?
Yeah, no, of course. So there's two types of reimbursements, personal and travel. Personal is if, let's say, your group like bought stickers for a promotion. Actually, we just had that 20 minutes ago. So let's say you paid for stickers for promotion, right? With your own card. What you really do is you come in with the receipt with your card that you paid with and your student ID. And then we'll just ask questions like, why'd you buy them? What are you going to do with them? And then you would just fill out a purchase order like we showed earlier. And then you will receive a check in the mail after it gets processed in a couple weeks for the amount. If you have direct deposit set up too, it should go through direct deposit. And then travel reimbursement is a lot more complicated, but basically if you travel somewhere with your group, you spend your own money, you can get reimbursed on certain things such as gas, lodging, food, but each one has like a per diem rate, so you could actually only get reimbursed up to a certain amount. That's why we recommend groups come to us first, because we don't want you to lose out on any money. But yeah, and you can claim for that to be reimbursed for those.
Yeah, I'm just asking for the minimum catering had to be 2 weeks in advance, and next week I get some food. So.
For sure. Yeah, so like you're catering from a restaurant?
Probably Market of Choice, like a platter.
Oh, okay. If what are you getting from Market of Choice?
Like a sandwich platter.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, so you don't need catering for that. So sorry we didn't make this clear. But for prepackaged food, sandwich platters, chips, cookies, you actually don't need a catering waiver. You only need a catering waiver if you are getting something that's like a custom made. So like from a restaurant, or if you go to Costco, you get a custom cake, we will need a catering waiver for that.
So how we do just like the PO for like prepackaged stuff?
Yeah, so you would just fill out the purchase order that we showed earlier. We would just take down the information, make sure you have it posted on OrgSync, and then we'll write you the PO. You take it to Market of Choice, and they know how to handle it from there.
And that can be done like the day of?
Yes, as long as you have it posted on OrgSync. Yeah, OrgSync. We're making that. We're trying to make that really clear. OrgSync postings, because a lot of
And we do have an exception on pizza. So for like getting pizzas, Domino's, Falling Sky, you don't need a
Costco. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any pizza that doesn't need a catering waiver. That's like the one exception. Mm-hmm.
And also with the personal reimbursement, the same posting rules apply to that. So if you're like the event that you spend money on your own pockets for like INE, from INE fund, we do require like the week of events and posting for the personal reimbursement.
Any other questions?
So it wasn't clear for me. So if you use the purchasing order, say you want to buy something at Market of Choice, do we take the purchasing order there and then give it back to you?
So
and then take the check from you and then go back there?
No, so what will happen with purchase orders, so let's say you go to Market of Choice, right? You give them the purchase order, they'll take it, and then you will just shop like normal, and then you'll get a receipt from Market of Choice, come back with the receipt, and then you're good from there. Our accounting department will handle the rest. You don't have to bring a check to Market of Choice. Checks will be mailed to them.
So just bring the receipt.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're going to like Costco or anywhere, honestly, you always have to bring back a receipt or a final invoice from wherever you went. And then that's like the last thing that you need to do. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Yes, right there.
Do we fill out the PO first or
Yes, I would recommend you kind of think of an estimate in your head. Anything that doesn't get spent will just go back into your account. So, yeah.
And if you overspend 10%, that's fine. For yeah.
Yeah, so if you have a $40 purchase order, you can spend up to 10% over, and then anything over that, we'll have to write a second PO. Any other questions? Okay. That's our contract.
So contracts, we have two types of contract. One is
or three types.
Oh, three types. Custom contract, contract through payroll, and contract.
Personal service.
Personal service contract. Yeah. So personal service contract is like speakers, DJ, or people who are performing service at your event. And contract through payroll will be if the person is a UO employee, UO student. And custom contract will be required if we are doing a facility rental. If we have any writing agreement with another contract, with an outside vendor, for example, if you're renting a performance hall in Eugene and they require like a agreement that needs to be signed, we will have to use the custom contract.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so basically contracts are used for whenever y'all want like performers, speakers, or anything. It's legally binding. And we do have a lot of deadlines for them. And we're trying to be like a lot more strict on deadlines this year. So custom contracts, like he said, with the facility rentals, multiple day events, or if the person who's being contracted also has an agreement that you need to sign, the deadline is 6 weeks because it has to go through a lot of different departments, and it has to, a lot of people have to review it. A whole contract has to be written up. We have to read their terms and then sign. So it's a really long process. So if you do have any of those, we really, really recommend that you plan ahead because these are some of the toughest things to deal with. The personal service contracts, like Winston said, performers, speakers, DJs, caterers. The deadline is 4 weeks. It's a little bit shorter because all we have to really do is write up a contract. They have to sign it and then get it back to us. But it's still quite a long process. So 4 weeks out. So definitely plan your events ahead. Also, I guess it's not listed on here, but the contract through payroll. So if you're contracting a UO student or a UO employee, it's 2 weeks. So yeah.
So for airfare, we're doing the travel agency with Premier Travel, and there's a form on OrgSync, same as the motor pool that we actually just added this year, and it's pretty straightforward. So if you just follow like the steps on OrgSync, it's pretty clear. And also for lodging, as TJ said, that some of the hotels in Eugene or in other states, they take health check. So we could use a health check, request a health check, and you would just bring it with you. And there is a restriction on Airbnb. We cannot do Airbnb with P-card, the credit card, but we can use Airbnb as reimbursement.
Yeah. So yeah, we recommend you go through like our processes for airfare and lodging first, because airfare, you do get pretty good quotes. We just recommend that you fill them out right away, right after you get the quote. So there's a form on OrgSync, and yeah, it's under student organizations and then forms. So you'd go to ASUO student organizations forms, and then airfare requests will be right there. It's pretty straightforward, like you said. And the thing that we need you to do is like, we need you to fill it out fast because within 24 hours, the quote will expire. So if you don't fill out the form and then you make the request, you may have to pay a different price. And yeah. So driving. So anyone who is going to be driving, like let's say you request a card through Motor Pool, you have to fill out the UO driver certification card. But that's also on OrgSync. It's gonna be right there. It's an application, so you have to like do it, take it like a little test, And yeah, and there's also van certification because you can rent vans as well. And that's gonna be kind of like with the driver certification. It's kind of like hand in hand. Yeah, let's see. Next, reimbursements.
Oh, yeah, and also with the Yo driver's card, it requires for all types of driving. So even with your own vehicle that you want to take on your trip. So yeah.
Yeah. Should we stop for questions real quick?
Yeah.
Does anyone have questions yet so far about any of the travel stuff or contract stuff?
Airbnb reimbursable.
So yeah, so we definitely recommend you try to go through like the other lodging processes, like try to look for hotels that the university works with. If it really comes down to it, Airbnb, we can only do personal reimbursement. We can't use any of our like purchase orders or P card with it. So we don't exactly recommend it, but if that's the only option for your group, then yes, you can get a travel reimbursement for an Airbnb.
It depends on the workload and like the amount of reimbursement. It could take up to like
6 weeks. So if you want that money out of your account for 6 weeks, by all means. Yeah, back there.
So we can pay for airfare with ASU funds.
Yes.
You'll reimburse for driving. Would you reimburse or be paid for like Greyhound or Amtrak with ASU funds?
Can we? We can. Yeah, we can. Yeah, but probably recommend the motor pool, or I mean whatever you guys want to use. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, reimbursements. So I guess the big thing about reimbursements is that they have to be submitted within 30 days of whatever you purchased. So with the sticker example, if you purchased it like today, you'd have $30, or you'd have 30 days from today to start the PO for the reimbursement. If it's past 30 days, unfortunately, we cannot reimburse you for it. And yeah. And like we said before, payment could take a couple weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, or even longer, depending on if there's a lot of reimbursements going on. You want to take this one? Or you want me to keep it? Okay. So just, yeah. Yeah, so reimbursements, like we said, can be avoided because we don't want, y'all to be out some money for like 4 to 6 weeks. It's a lot better to go through the procurement card process. So if you need to pay for anything online, registration fees, hotels, a lot of hotels, you can like pay for it online through a credit card. If you need to buy decorations off Amazon, P-Card is definitely the online go-to option. And then, yeah, so for airfare, we have Premier Travel. That's definitely the recommended way to do airfare. And then for purchase orders, we will help y'all out with any purchase orders that you need. So if you need to buy anything, or if you have any questions, just let us know. You don't have to go out, buy it first, and then come to us. You could come to us first, and then we'll let you know if you can or cannot purchase it, instead of you just going out to purchase it yourself. So yeah. Question?
So most of my question is, does it all work before you submit budget to zero?
Does
you're only submitting budget in procedure, right? So can we already use that before we submit it?
So do you have a budget for this year? You do? Okay, and you have IFE funded money and fundraising money and all that?
No.
Oh.
Not funded.
Oh, not yet. Okay, so if you have any money in any of your fundraising funds at the moment, you can utilize any of these. If not, I think we're going to talk about it later, but you could get outside funding from other places, and we'll talk about that in a sec. And then for the budget process that is going on right now, that is for next year's budget.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know if you got emailed already your budget packet for your group, but any of that stuff will be for next fiscal year. Yeah. Question?
Yeah, I have a question about the
Yeah, motor pool?
Yeah, is that on Brooksync?
It is. Yep.
To get to rent, man.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to rent like the big like 12 passenger or 8 passenger vans, yeah, that's still through Motor Pool. So you'd make the request through Motor Pool, and then you would fill out that you want a 12 passenger van, and you'd fill out the OrgSync posting, and it's gonna ask like what kind of car you're getting, and you just write 12 passenger van.
And all the forms are available on the issue, so like the vehicle rental agreement, other forms that it's in the OrgSync post.
Yeah, very straightforward. Yep. Any other questions? All the way back there.
So if you have if you want to get a purchase order, but one of the stores that you want to go to doesn't take purchase orders, is that when you get a P card to go to that store, or is that P card only for online?
So yeah, the P card is only for online purchases. If a certain vendor doesn't work with the university, yeah, unfortunately we can't write a purchase order. But if it's a restaurant per se, like we could set them up as a new vendor. All you'd have to do is you'd go to them, request a W-9 from them, and then we could fill out a purchase order if they want to do it that way. But like, let's say, for example, like Safeway doesn't take purchase orders anymore, so we can't write POs to Safeway. But there's definitely a lot of other vendors that are set up. And there's also, there's a link online that should tell you, I think is it later?
It's on OrgSync, there's like a vendor list on OrgSync.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole long list of vendors that we can use, or on the ASUO page as well. If you just search up ASUO and go to like the actual website, it should be under student resources. Checked it out the other day. Any other questions? Oh, no? Okay. So outside funding. Perfect. Oh my God.
So we can, as you may know already, for every Wednesday, Senate will meet for a Senate hearing, and you can request for money. There's a form on OrgSync. It's under ASUO Senate and Senate Special Request. You could do fund transfer if it's over 10% within your funds, or request from Senate. But unfortunately, this year we are pretty short on fundings, and so there are different ways of getting money. Also, your departments such as MCC, Women's Center, for example, Mills International Center department sponsorship is also a way to look at.
Exact.
And exec, you can go through executive, talk to one of the exec members. Maria is the president, Imani and Ivan Chen, they're the vice president this year. So you can get a hold of them, talk to them. They can also do a co-sponsorship.
Yeah. And just going off that, like you said, if you don't have too big of a budget and you do want to plan out a lot of events, or you want to like grow your group, there's definitely a lot of resources for you to use. Just use OrgSync to get in contact with them. The exec members are all listed on OrgSync. Departments, you could just email the department, or just literally walk in and be like, hey, like we're doing this big event. We don't have too big of a budget. Like, can you like co-sponsor? You could even ask other student groups too. A lot of student groups work together to help like kind of co-plan events. Like I know a lot of the like the
cultural nights.
Yeah, the culture nights. Like a lot of or the cultural groups like to throw a lot of big co-sponsored events. So yeah, definitely just get in contact with a lot of people. Everyone, all leaders, info should be on OrgSync too. So if you want to maybe get in touch with a specific organization, you could email them, be like, hey, do you want to help us throw this event? And yeah. So fundraising from events. If you fundraise for your group on campus, you have to use a cashier from the ticket office. And they do have a cashier fee with that. But I was recently told that each group gets, I think Dave said each group gets like $50 to go towards like cashier fees. So yeah, you have to do that. And then the forms for the cashier requests are on the ticket office website. You need to submit them prior to the event that you're throwing. It says 12 days here. And then they will handle all the money, and they will deposit it into your funds. For off campus, what you would do, like let's say, I know the big one is like bake sales. So like let's say you get money donated from people like checks, cash, what you do is you come to our office and then you'd fill out a deposit slip. After we fill out the deposit slip, take it up to accounting, and then we'll handle it from there. Ooh, oh, real quick, actually, any questions yet about fundraising or about resources? Oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
So if it's a fundraising event that's on campus, but it's not ticket sales, we still go through the ticket office event cashiers?
Yeah.
If you're collecting money,
Mhm,
okay,
yep.
I just want to be clear because it says
Yeah.
tickets. So.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, it's not clear on there, but like any kind of like money, like even if you throw like a meeting with your group and like so any kind of money collection. Yeah. Any other question?
Oh yeah. So like for example, if it's an IT funded event, and then all the revenue generated from that will go into your e-funded event fund.
Cool. Any other question? I think yeah.
Going off of that, so okay.
It's okay.
It's an on-campus event, but we want to make it's a silent auction, and all the money we're gonna donate to NEALI, the Northeast Indian Language Institute. So like, but we still have to get the cashier, and then we have to pay the fee, and then all the money will go to the SUO before we can give it away as a donation. I'm just not entirely sure how the money.
Yeah, so donations, that's a whole nother process. But still, it seems as though you said it's gonna be on campus.
Yeah.
And yeah, if it's on campus, still gonna need the cashier. And then donation is a whole nother process. I think we're gonna talk about that later. But yeah.
So my group was considering like selling merchandise at our event. Like, what is policy about that? Like, are there any like?
What were you thinking of selling?
Like, we're thinking about like selling sweatshirts.
Okay, so like, so like your group's like logos and stuff on like sweatshirts.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure. So for that, you can't use the I or the E fund to pay for because that is the student fee money. But if you want to take like pre-orders, I believe that is okay. And then you'd have to pay for the shirts and then take all the money collected and then pay for like the order of the shirts. Because I don't think we can like make shirts and then sell them. Yeah.
For IP, I and E fund money, you can make t-shirts, but you cannot sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And it applies to gift rules. If the single unit is under $10, you can just give them away. But if it's between $10 to $25, then you have to have the names and the ones.
Yeah. So technically, we can't really sell. But if you want to buy shirts for people, then yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we were just confused
Yeah.
if there were like restrictions against like selling merchandise like that. So we were like,
If you got a bunch of shirts, like someone donated shirts to you, and you wanted to turn around and sell those to the fundraiser, and you were collecting cash, and it was on campus, you got to have a
Cashier.
Now, if you go to the duck store and you sell those t-shirts, you don't need
Yeah, because off campus.
it's off campus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's kind of like fundraising.
So you need to go back to it.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so we're gonna move on to stipends. Fun.
And hope you already submitted the stipend forms. And
Yeah.
if you have not, the deadline will be the end of this month. And yeah, so stipends, as you know, there are 3 different forms. One is the intake one, and then the authorization and the leadership description. But each month there is a form on OrgSync. It's called the stipend monthly authorization form. And only the director has to fill that out monthly. And if you miss a month, you can go on the next month before the 15th of that month to claim the previous month that you missed.
Yeah. So like you said, hopefully you all got it turned in because the deadline was a couple days ago. But if not, we can help with any questions about filling out stipend forms. I know not every group has a stipend budget, but if you do, just definitely let us know. We're here to help. I know there's a lot of different forms. Just some things that I found a lot of people were confused about the stipend forms was the description form, the student leadership stipend form. That needs to be typed except for any areas that has initials or signing. So I know a lot of people hand wrote their description, but it has to be typed or else it's not valid. Question?
How do you get a stipend budget?
Yeah, so there's tiers. So if your group I fund grows to a certain amount, like if you're allocated up to a certain amount, then you will receive a stipend budget. I'm not exactly sure of the specific tiers, but yeah, that's.
Dave has one of our professional staff. Dave has a chart of which tiers they.
The stipend model is located on the ASUO website.
Yep.
If you want to look at it.
Yep, of course. Is there another question? That's not him. Sorry. Oh, I can't hear. Sorry. Wait, sorry, I can't. I still. Sorry. Oh, okay. So we go through all the stipend forms before we send them up to Dave, which is the person who initially looks over the stipend forms. And then if we find any errors, we will email your group. So definitely keep an eye out on your emails because I have sent out quite a few to groups who did not fill them out correctly. Yeah, and then if you turn in all your forms, you'll know if you're approved if you fill out the monthly authorization form and you receive your first stipend. But if you have questions on if you have all your forms like good and ready to go, you could also email us because we have a large like Excel spreadsheet that kind of lists out all the organizations that have completed all their stipend paperwork. So yeah, just definitely shoot us an email or come in and talk to us. So anyone else? I know stipend's going on right now, so if you have a question, let us know. Yeah, and then yeah, so Dave Finney, his information's right there in case you have any other questions, but definitely ask us too, because Dave is kind of busy and we're here to help, so.
Yeah, so for most of the information, as you know, it will be posted on OrgSync, which is uoregon.orgsync.com. And you can find the airfare request form, the motor pool form. The ASUO guidebook will be under ASUO student organization page. The calendar, the mandatory trainings, such as this one, and the news feed, like hiring process. Oh, like, yeah, we're hiring actually. We're hiring 5 new controllers. Yeah, you can find the process application on OrgSync as well, and messages. And this is our finance office. It's located next to Odesk at the ticket office. And
yeah, it's a little hidden because there's like a big like obstruction right in front of it. But like if you know where the ticketing office is, if you look at the ticketing office, literally to the right, like it's just right there. And yeah, again, we're here to help. We are open from 9 to 5 every day except Mondays is 9 to 4. Yeah, definitely come in if you have any questions. And this is highlighted in red because spending rules and resources, I know there's a lot of spending rules, but if you go on OrgSync and you read this over, it will definitely help a lot if you have any questions on what you can and can't buy. But you can also talk to us. So.
And also for this year, since we only have this term, since we only have 6 controllers, and so I would say for group leaders, just getting know one of us, or because our hours stay the same for this term. So if you have like a controller that your group goes to, that would be like faster for the process.
Yeah. Just get familiar with us. Pretty cool, I would say. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm kind of cool, but we definitely are really knowledgeable about all the processes. So if you just get to know one of us, it makes it faster if you have questions on stuff, because like we know you, we can help you out, and yeah. want me to talk about? Okay, I got it. So upcoming dates and deadlines. The budget process, the main one. Budget process for next year is going on right now. We have completed all the budget packs for the groups, or most of them. And then we are gonna start emailing them out to you. So please look out for those emails because you're gonna need to look those over, and then you're gonna have to meet with your PFC tag. So your PFC tag, it should be in the email, or yeah, it'll be in the email who your tag is. You're gonna have to contact them, schedule a time where you can meet with them, because you have to meet with them before you turn in your budget request. They're gonna kind of like help you go over your request, because if you don't do this process, unfortunately, you're not gonna get an allocated budget for next year. I actually had someone come in earlier who unfortunately missed out. And I couldn't write him a PO because he didn't have any money. And if you have questions on it, come talk to us too, because we've been working on this budget process for the past few weeks, getting all the files ready. So if you really need help with like what's going on or like questions on what to do, come talk to us or email us, and we can help. And then,
sorry.
No, keep going.
Yeah, also the deadline to apply for this job is coming. So, yeah.
That's another deadline. If you want to apply to be a financial controller, it's going to be Friday of week 5. So this coming up Friday, exactly 1 week from now. I guess I'll give a little plug on that. It's a really good experience, y'all. You really get to know like how an office runs. You get a lot of practice with like Excel and like database software. So if you have a career interest in like the business field or accounting, it's really good real life experience. I know a lot of controllers who have already graduated. They go on to really big things. Stephanie got hired at Goldman Sachs. Lizzie is going to EY. It's really good experience. And then stipends, please, stipends. They were due October 15th, but that doesn't mean you still can't turn in your stipend forms. We still definitely recommend you turn in your forms so that you can receive your stipends, so that that budget doesn't get wasted. And they are due into us as soon as possible. And then after you turn in your forms, it's not over, okay? There's a monthly form on OrgSync. If you go to ASUO Student Organizations thing, under the Forms tab, there's a monthly stipend authorization form. It's like the very first one.
So you can actually find it under your own groups. Forms.
Yeah, and it's really straightforward. Question. If you turned in your stipend forms already to us, then yeah, I would fill out the form, the monthly form, if you turned in all your stipend paperwork. Was there another hand? Yeah.
So when we submit, I'm just completely into this.
Mhm.
When we submit the budget for next year,
Yeah, so you'll get them for next year, but so what'll happen is after you fill out the request, you meet with the PSC, you turn it in. What's gonna happen is they're gonna start doing budget hearings. So I guess we'll go back to the budget. Or I guess. Yeah. Oh, they are. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess they'll talk more about it, but there will be like hearings, and then you go to the hearing, you request it, and then those funds will be allocated for next fiscal year. So basically, yeah.
July 1st.
Mm-hmm. So basically, July 1st of 2019. Yeah, you'll be able to access those funds. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. And then if you want to take down some information, phone number, email, asuofinance@uoregon.edu. Probably going to be using that a lot, so I would save that. And yeah, so that's our hours. I already listed those. And that's it. End of the slideshow.
Thank you guys so much. So we do have someone here from PFC to talk about budgets, so that will also answer some more of your questions. Oh, you want to know now? Okay, that's fine. You don't have a presentation. Okay, go ahead. Okay, he's talking now. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Joey. I'm a part of PFC. As you know, we kind of are the judges of your allocation for next year. So the budget submittal is open now. That was on Monday. How many people did not get an email from us? Okay, so I need you to email pfc@uoregon.edu and request a budget packet, essentially. We'll give you all the information you need to know, and we'll get you started on this. So after you guys get your budget packets, please review it with your groups, know what you want to spend it on, and then meet with us. We'll explain the whole process again thoroughly and set up a budget hearing time, which will be weeks 8 and 10 of this term and weeks 1 to 3 of winter term. And within that budget, I'll explain. How we decide the budget is usually through a threshold system. So last year, we did, if you spent 80% or below of your money, you're gonna get a decrease. If you spent 90%, you're gonna get a freeze. If you spent more than 90, you'll most likely get an increase. So this year, we're gonna be a little more flexible because we had a negative overall budget. So this year, you can be flat, so 0. But we're not going to recommend you go to surplus or anything else. So like what the controllers recommended was partnering up, getting some sponsorships, and we're besides that, and please do it this year because we do not have surplus. Yeah, and that's about it. Can I get any questions? Yeah.
Last year we spent 120% more than our budget. So how many percent do you think?
We'll have to determine that on a case by case basis, but it will probably not be more than 10 at best. That's too much.
So I heard that if you didn't spend all of your budget, but like during the spring term, you could turn back your money towards ASUO, then that wouldn't like negatively affect your budget.
Yes, that's really important, and we try to emphasize that in hearings if you didn't spend, because the budget gets adjusted at the end.
If you're not showing up for the budget from last year, this is your first year.
So last year we began, or you don't have a budget right now? Yes. So you, okay, it's like 500. Yeah, it's $500 for the beginning.
Our group just recently transitioned to have all those small numbers. So this year we didn't get a budget because we didn't know about it last year. But in previous years we had bigger budgets than $500. Would we still be set only 500 or not?
It would probably not be like the committee will determine that. I would probably, if I were you, go off. Okay. Yeah, we give you the book budget documents to be able to see previous years, like the allocation. And so I was like somewhere around there. My guess is PFC probably will give you 100% of what you had before, but you know, gives you an idea.
Can you explain a little more about what you said about turning surplus budget?
Yes, so yeah, if you don't spend your money at the end of the year, like spring term, and you realize you're going to do an event, there's a form I believe you can turn in, like that budget you use for that.
There's a period of time during spring term that allows return for your budget that you don't spend. It's usually a 2-3 period. It's beneficial to key organizations because it won't pay you for spending. If you return your funds back to surplus voluntarily, then you won't get dinged for not spending.
Will we get emails about that, or is that publicized?
It is a publicized.
Also, I've heard a couple more things. So I heard this question about your PFC tag and where to find those. That's in the email with the link. It's also, I believe it's on our PFC portal online. If you cannot find it on either of those, please email us. I like to think we're friendly people and we'll help you with anything. We're also mostly in the ASU office throughout the afternoon. So please don't be afraid to stop by. Also, when you fill out your budget packets, please be detailed in your line items and how you're going to spend them. We had some issues with that
So, say you call the budget and time goes by and you realize, we need to adjust some numbers. Say, we have $20 for this thing, but we don't need that anymore. Can we move that to some other activities? What is the process?
Yeah, so it's happening during the budget season. We'll be happy to fix that in the hearing, and we'll work with you to find the right budget lines where you want to allocate that money. But if it's after, you can go to fill out a Senate request form, and they'll take it.
Just within 10%. Yeah, so with the controller, you need to move a little bit. Let's say you have $1,000 here, but you want to take a little bit out just to cover we can move up to 10% of the original. The original allocate $500 we can $50. Let's say we need a little bit extra for decoration. Or actually, no, we can't do it. So if you need to buy other stuff, we can use that.
But if it's less than 2%, you don't need to pay those cents.
But if you need a new large amount, you will have to do it.
There's the question. Yeah.
So on that same note, can you move funds? Okay, how do I? So the budget was created last year by different people. So now, if we want to have an event that is not listed on our line items, how do we spend money on that new event that's not listed? Can we move 10% from a line item that exists to make up a new line item, or does it have to be in the existing?
The answer to that is yes, but you have to go to Senate to do that. So you fill out a Senate special request and roll a little line in there, and you can create a new line item for the new event, and then you request how much you want to transfer to that new line item. That takes Senate approval, I think. Thank you.
Yes, and the last thing is, again, reiterate the due date for that budget next week with us is November 9th. Please tell me before that if you can. But, thank you guys. Is there any more questions? Oh.
If your organization's name has University of Oregon in front of it or Oregon in front of it, do you go to the tab?
What group are you?
I'm just asking for other groups because they have other groups.
It depends. I've seen it in.
Or does it just not matter?
You can send an email to us to confirm. I've seen it with different places. I know UOFMA is one of them, but it's an F tag. But I've also seen it at other places. So I can't confirm that. Yes, totally. And I think with the banks, you guys heard that, you'll help with that, people help with that. We're happy to help with that.
For PFC, do you have to email them, at the morning with them, or just
please drop in, whatever. We're usually pretty free. Some people make appointments, but we're usually free.
Thank you. Who's up first? We're literally almost done. Thank you for staying.
So we're going to talk about Finland and event services. It's at PAU room 236, and this is where you go to reserve our rooms on campus, and that's one of the rooms we can rent out. It's open from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. through 5 p.m. If you have any questions for them, you can go to the website, like over there. And yeah, if you want to look at what rooms are available, you can, it's all listed in the website.
So if you want to, they recommend that you fill out the online form to request a room, but if it's within 72 hours, you need to call their phone number, which is located on their website. They are like pretty busy, so they don't, if you come in to fill out a form in person, they might not get to it as fast because first come, first serve. So yeah, keep that in mind. So fundraising. So as you all have heard, we don't have a lot of money for surplus. So we are here to help you come up with new ways that you could get more money for your organization, because we know you want to plan events and things like that. So we talked about selling items. You can get, you can do restaurant fundraisers. Table outside the duck store. It's really easy. You can just go tell them when you want to get a table, and then on that day you just exchange your ID card for the table. A lot of people do that in the street. You walk by and see, and in the Amy Fishbowl. Clubs are tabling all the time. There are some rules with regarding fundraising on and off campus, which the controllers talked about a little bit. So if you have more questions about that, and if you want to fundraise, come talk to us, and we can help you with your specific event or fundraiser. So this is a really good thing. The Duck Events Fund is every term, and so I have some flyers here we can hand out where you guys can come and get them. But the Duck Events Fund, you can apply every term. So say you're having an event in the winter, and you should apply to the Duck Events Fund by November 28th, and you just fill out an application, describe what it's specifically for events. You describe what your event is, the purpose, why you're doing it, when, all the details. Tell us about your organization. And so there are, clubs can receive up to $1,000 for that event. And so I highly recommend that all of you apply. This happens every term. If you're having an event, and if you're having an event this fall, unfortunately you can't do it now because you would have had to apply last spring. But yes, any questions on that? Yeah.
Awarded? What fund does that money go to?
I think it goes in the it might go, yeah, fund, yeah. And there will just be a follow-up process. You'll get that money into your account after. We hold a committee to review all the applications and during finals week, and so then you will hear back within like a few weeks or a week and get that money in well before your event. Yeah. No, just if you're having an event in the spring, apply in the winter. Yeah, by the way, and then we'll be publicizing when the winter term deadline is too. But for events in the winter, it's November 20th. There is someone who is on the committee who is a representative because they haven't contributed. Any more questions? Money management. So the controllers talked a little bit about this. Don't recommend doing reimbursements, Senate requests. There isn't a lot of money, but if you want to move money in between for line items, you still have to go out and fill out the Senate special request form. We are available to help you do that. Senate is held on Wednesday nights. You have to fill out the form by Friday at, I believe, 5 p.m. the Friday before. And then you would attend Senate, represent your club, explain what you're requesting money for or what you're moving, why you're moving the money, and things like that. Yes, question?
Just for special questions, there is like some like, does that mean that like you really just shouldn't? Like how you're probably not gonna get it?
Yeah, it depends on you know, we've had clubs, you know, request like thousands and thousands of dollars before. So if it's a low amount, I don't know the exact.
We don't know the exact dollar amount,
but it's very low. Yeah. If you, I mean, there's no harm in trying and going in and trying to request, and you know, just defend your group, hold your case, explain that it's going to impact campus and have a good impact for the U of O and students. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Ticket sales, door sales, you need to have cashier. Costs $10 an hour. You need to do that like 15 days in advance to request a cashier.
So, did you have a question?
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know, we just mentioned $10 an hour at year. So if we wanted to say, I don't know, like, something that doesn't make sense, say we wanted to have a dance and we were charging $10 could we like have a cashier there for an hour to collect funds that people came in and we shut it for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Another option too is that we have a way of collecting funds on the ASUO website. So if you're like pre-selling tickets to not ticket companies, but maybe you're having a conference or something and you're starting a registration fee, you can do it online. And that kind of helps you save money.
Yeah, that would be
advanced. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, so a couple last things. We really encourage you guys to manage your time wisely while working in your organization, but we're not going to do this activity. So our ideas of managing your time include backwards calendaring. So basically what you're doing is you're setting the day that you want your event and then kind of working backwards of like when deadlines are and when you need to get decorations and when you need to get your catering waiver in. So making sure that those are like very apparent in that. Making sure that you check the University of Oregon events calendar is something that's really important, and making sure that you get your event on that calendar and making sure there's no conflicts in that. And then planning in advance, making the most of staff meetings. So not kind of like goofing off and talking about your personal life, but instead like making the most of the meetings and making sure you're talking about things that actually matter. Making to-do lists is something that we as peeps do a lot, and make sure like you're like checking things off and always checking the to-do list to see if you can get anything done. Setting reminders on OrgSync, and then making sure that you're always taking note of the deadlines that are coming up, just so everyone's clear and everyone's working towards those deadlines, so no one's missing those.
So it's okay to ask for help. These are some more resources. We've been giving you a lot. So previous leadership, your past leaders that helped you transition into this position. Us, the peeps, controllers, scheduling event services. Julie, come to us first. Your faculty advisor, is everyone's here to help. So we offer trainings. So like this is a training for all clubs. So if your organization wants to have a training, we can come to one of your weekly meetings, and we could. Some of our trainings are super quick. Here's some examples. We time management contracts. If you're having you need help, the differences between the contracts, how to fill them out, what they're for. Money management, officer transitions, OrgSync. Our OrgSync training is really cool. There's a lot of things on OrgSync that a lot of folks don't know about. Those are just a few examples. If you want to request a new training, we can just come to your staff meeting or any of your club meetings and give you your club personalized training. You have a lot of like knowledge and a lot of resources that are available. There's a form on our ASUO Peeps portal on OrgSync, and it's the workshop selection form, and you can just fill that out when you want us to come, and we will come to your or any other time. So the last thing is bylaws are going to need to be updated for your organization, and we're going to hold bylaws drop-in hours. You can obviously come into our office. We're in the CSI. One of us is there Monday through Friday, like most of the time. Our office hours are posted on our team page too. So you can come and help, and we can help you update your bylaws. There's a lot of requirements you have to follow when updating those. So there's also very important. They are due in March, but you have to submit your updated bylaws before March. So then Emily can approve them ahead of time. Yeah.
I would like you guys to submit it 2 weeks before March, so we actually have time to go over your bylaws and look to see what needs to be edited. And I'll email you if you need to edit your bylaws. Like I'll say that this is like blah blah. These things are what you like change in order to be approved. And after you emailed me that and I've emailed you an approval, then that's when it counts. So you have to have it approved by March 9th. Yeah. So don't submit it in on like March 8th and expect me to respond in 1 day. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. And if you get denied before March 9th, you're going to have to redo it again. So we will be here to help you. There's like a draft that we have access to and the groups do, so we can help you with that. Thank you all for coming. There's one more slice of pizza if anyone wants to compete for it. Thank you. Is there anything else? Okay, good. What time is it?
Just a moment to repeat it.
Oh, no, it's not
everyone.
yeah.
Selling it on these events. What exactly is the process for that? Because we're having an event next week.
Thank you.
And it's one that we had